Hey, this is Brandon from Spiro Studios, creator of Dusk and Animal Wars of the Kingdom and Grits. You're listening to Southern Fried Geek.
1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode, what's the number? Somebody say the number.
69.
Ooh.
69,
Because
dude.
we're all 12-year-old.
Yeah. I like the one person who got excited about this last time is not here. He was the one who wanted to do like a whole sex-themed episode, but he gonna skip out on us to probably, I don't know, I won't tell his business.
Good chance that he's making his own sex scenes right now.
Thematically, he is probably in the good. But hey everybody, this is Caleb Alexander Kinsey like usual.
I'm Craig Lance.
And I'm Sean.
And welcome back to Southern Fried Geekery. It's been a week, been a whole week. It's been a huge week.
It's been a long week.
It's
Very
been a
long
long week. Yeah, it really has. There's been a lot going on. How are you gentlemen doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good?
Yeah.
Sean?
Oh, yeah, doing great. Just had a real fun time with that Heroes and Angels Comic-Con we were telling you about last episode, hanging with Craig. And my wife made a rare appearance at a convention.
Nice.
Cosplayed, picked up a She-Hulk pop, which I think I'm starting to get on a She-Hulk kick now.
You've actually
Slow.
mentioned She-Hulk a few times in the last like month or so. So I think there's a build there.
Yeah, and I'm happy about it.
I didn't get anything from the show.
Not one single thing.
Yeah, no, that's a lie. I got an original page from Major X by Brett Peoples.
Yeah. Oh, that's that new Rob Liefeld joint, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Issue 2, sheet 12 that happened to have Beast, Cable, Wolverine, and Major X on it. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that one.
Right.
So I got that, and then I picked up, maybe 3 Star Wars toys.
just little action figures.
Yeah.
Like a blaster, little handheld one.
No, I got a Yoda, and then I got a new one of the reproductions of Yak Face, which came in the crowdfunded Cell Barge, and the last thing was the speeder bike from Return of the Jedi.
Oh, nice.
And Craig isn't pointing out it's a carded Yoda.
It is a carded Yoda.
No shit.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back, carded Yoda.
Nice.
Orange Snake. Yeah, all of it.
It's pretty sweet.
You're kind of a little bit of a Star Wars aficionado, right? Have you ever considered doing a Star Wars podcast?
I probably should.
You should.
Yeah.
Well, if you did one, what would you name it?
I would name it Force of the Wheels, and you can find it on every place you find any other podcast, including this one.
No, fist bump on that one. We did good.
It's a great segue.
Like we said, we are short of a Jerry this morning. His lady is in town, and so he opted to do a brunch and breakfast with her, and they're hanging out before she has to skedaddle back to the place way up in the Pacific Northwest where she is just kicking all kinds of ass. And so we hope they are having a great day. I did not make it out to Heroes and Angels Con. I disappointedly so. I wanted to be there so bad. I hated that I couldn't be there. I beg forgiveness for the folks that did come there and for the people that were running it that I couldn't be there, but glad to hear you guys had a great time. I did not get to go because for those of you who have been following our, just a little behind the scenes personal stuff, we had a house fire about 2.5 months ago. Didn't lose anything major, but we had to have a lot of construction done to the house. We have been not living at home, for the last 2.5 months. We've been staying with some friends and we finally got to get back in the house. We got cleared to get back in Friday, started Friday night, really getting into it. And so that was just me all weekend, just grinding.
Priorities, stuff. Man. You're choosing your personal life over your comic life.
Dude, my everything, it is my comic life. Here's why. Because everything we fucking own has been crammed in my comic room, and it's driving me insane. I put this on Thor, Odin, and everybody. I'll have that comic room fixed back up before I mow the goddamn yard. If Roger wants that yard mowed, he can get out there and get it. I'm gonna clean my comic room. I'm
really happy for you that you got it back up, and it looks really good from the videos you posted. I need to get over it.
Real happy for you, bro.
Got the new dog in the house, got the whole little family up in there. It's nice. It's nice. And so I appreciate everybody out there who from the SFG crew, from the Southern Fried fam, who reached out and offered their for their whatevers, their good vibes, their thoughts, their prayers, their best wishes while we were dealing with this bullshit. I appreciate it. It did mean a lot. It straight up did. So thank you guys. But that was why I couldn't be at Angels and Heroes.
And Angels and Heroes was pretty good. It's a very good thing that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting childhood cancer and not supporting the cancer, but
Research.
supporting families.
Right.
Yeah, and supporting the
in research against cancer.
Right. Paying, so we were talking the last time we saw, and I forget her name off the top of my head. So
Brandy.
Brandy. Yeah. So, sorry, Brandy. We were speaking with Brandy at the last con we were at, and she was telling us a little bit about it. I've never had a child in my life, my personal life, who's had to deal with leukemia or those things. But when that happens, it's pretty much standard procedure. Automatically, one parent has to quit a job. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, like most families are, that's devastating. So it goes to help paying the rent, paying the light bill, groceries,
a lot
gas.
of times they have to move that child and one parent have to move to wherever the local children's hospital or whatever may be. Like in Arkansas, you have one, and it's in Little Rock. If you live anywhere else in Arkansas, unless you're close to a border state or something that has one closer, you have to come all the way to Little Rock.
Yeah.
So a lot of, like you said, a lot of parents have to quit. One of the parents has to quit their job and move there with the child while they're being treated.
We're real fortunate to have a Ronald McDonald House here in Little Rock too. And so what Ronald McDonald House, actually one of the people who, one of the gentlemen, Paul Henry, who is on the board of directors for the VAN, the nonprofit that I work with, he is actually on either on the board of directors or he is one of the head honchos for Ronald McDonald House over there. So there's a lot of crossover there with what they do.
And one easy way you can support Ronald McDonald House is when you go through McDonald's and you pay cash, just drop your coin change into the little thing outside the window. You may think 20 cents doesn't add up, but 20 times 4,000 people that go through there a day does add up. So
absolutely.
It's a real easy way you can support those sorts of things without having to actually write like a huge check for it.
For sure. And I'm all about supporting the nonprofits, man. What Trick say? Trick love the kids. So,
they had a real emotional part yesterday at the con where they stopped and they read a bunch of names, children's names that either are currently fighting it or hadn't made it. And, it was a real emotional thing.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So get out there, support local. That's what we try to do with this podcast. We're a positive podcast. That's what we aim to be until we talk about the Roundtable book this week. But you can't be and say all those things that you are all those things if you're not going to at least support local in some way.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And when to pat my boy on the back, when Craig found out about this con, that it was a 501c and what it was, dude didn't blink an eye. He just whipped out his checkbook.
No hesitation.
Like just whipped it right on that big old checkbook, just whipped it out, laid it on the table. And
slapped it on the table.
Yeah, and bought us a SFG, a table at the con, so it didn't blink an eye. So, hats off to you for doing that. And, it's greatly appreciated.
Brett Peoples, not to keep, tooting his horn, but he found out about it. He wasn't doing anything this weekend, and he said he waived all of his fees and everything. He came out they just got him a hotel room and I think paid for his gas.
That's dope.
And he came out, he was doing free sketches for kids under 10 years old. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool to see an artist put his time in that he could have been in any other con this weekend. Yeah, he's got one of the biggest books out right now.
WonderCon was this weekend in DC. So
and he chose to do this one.
That's hot. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Good on that dude, man.
Yeah.
So there was something else that happened this weekend.
A little movie.
Yeah, something. one of those little obscure Marvel films dropped. And don't worry, we're not going to talk about it.
I'm wearing my shirt for a very specific reason. You're probably the only person that knows why.
Yes. It is Endgame dropped this weekend. It's the culmination of 10 years. Like I said, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh shit, are they fixing to spoil stuff for me? We're not going to talk about it this episode because Sean hasn't seen it yet. And we don't want to spoil anything for him, mainly because he's within arm's reach. He can hit me.
Right.
All you other people, you can just yell at me on the internet. I can turn that off. Sean can actually grab me by the face. And I don't want that because dude's big. So
also at least give people a week before you start spoiling shit.
Yeah,
right.
Because
if you're spoiling.
Yeah, I believe we had talked about next week's roundtable will be the movie.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Instead of doing a book next week, we're going to actually roundtable the movie. So you'll have a good week and a half to 2 weeks.
Because that will be spoilers.
Yeah, to go see it. And, and we'll do a spoiler warning on that too. So,
absolutely.
NBD, calm down. We're giving you time. Go see the film though. I loved it. It's a long movie. Made it through without a bathroom break because my bladder's a fucking rock star.
I actually made it through too, which surprised the shit out of me.
See, and this is the one of the many times I wish Jerry was here on this episode because I know he's got the bladder of a squirrel, and I want to know how many bathroom breaks he needed when he went and saw it.
I bought a large drink and I bought a popcorn, and I'm diabetic, so eating makes us pee.
Right.
Because your body's trying to flush out sugar.
Right.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it through this damn movie. But my bladder held out.
Yeah, man. It's appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, right? Way to go, bladder.
This is the things you say when you cross 30.
Exactly. Welcome to the Old Man Southern Fried Geekery podcast.
Yeah, no, I can, but I'll put my stamp on this movie, man. I loved it. I caught them feels several times, as you can tell from my Facebook posts.
The hype is real.
Yeah.
For sure. Get out there and listen, or get out there and watch it.
All about it. I do want to say one thing though, and we've gotten lucky so far, but Sean said the S word a while ago. If you come to our Facebook page, which you should come like our Facebook group because it's on and popping. We're getting new people all the time. The conversations are fun. Folks are rad. We're making new friends. But, you should make sure you don't post spoilers because we haven't had to delete anybody yet. But one of the few rules, and we do have a few rules, but one of the few rules that we have is if you spoil stuff, there is no second chances. I snap my Southern Fried Geekery administration Infinity Gauntlet, and you disappear from that page. We will block you. We're straight up. We might give you a second chance 6 months down the road or something, but you only get one chance on the page. You're not gonna. You can't
don't
run
a movie for other people. We'll put at least give it a couple of weeks before we'll start talking about it on the page. Yep. We'll have our episode next week, but that's been a full week and a half since it's been out.
Right.
So.
And people can choose they can choose to hit the pause button. You can't choose not to see what's in front of your face.
That's right.
And so that's just don't do that. But do come like our Facebook group because it's fun and you get to talk to me more and that's always fun.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You should follow us on Twitter and you should also follow us on Instagram where we're posting pictures and stuff. We're at SFG Podcast and it's good times all around. All right. So how was everybody's comics reading this week?
Slow, if I'm being honest.
Got very little read.
Yeah, I've got about half my stack. I
got about 4 books read this week, which is not even close to half my stack.
Yeah, I don't think I even read this week's. I think I got caught up on last week's books this week.
Oh, nice.
I'm just falling behind.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to the best of us. Well, one thing we did read this week, if you're new to the show, we want to welcome you, but each episode we roundtable a book. Some episodes we talk about more comics than others. This is actually going to be a listener question episode, so I'm really excited about this because I love the LQs, man. We have some smart people in our groups, and they ask some smart questions.
I'm going to say this, too. The questions are getting harder. I'm having to do more thinking.
I likes it.
Yeah. I have to actually dig deep for some of the answers to these questions.
Deep cuts, man.
Yeah. Keep it up, guys.
But on this episode, we're only going to really talk about one new book, and it is a book that came out last week, and it's a number 1. So we do want to offer a spoiler warning. For anybody who may have picked this book up or may be interested in this book, but you don't want to know exactly what happens because it's sitting on the back of your stack, like so many books are sitting on the back of ours. Here is your spoiler warning for Thanos number 1 from Marvel Comics, and that's our book for the week. So just before we really dig into it, general thoughts, very, very general, vague, oblique, obscure thoughts on the book.
I'll go with it. It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
But that's not, that's...
Some interesting elements, but didn't do much for me.
Okay. You know the sound that air makes when it's leaving a balloon?
Yeah.
That really whiny sound, like that was the air inside the balloon were my hopes for this book. And the sound was what actually happened.
Yeah.
So let's get into it a little bit. All right. Yeah. Thanos number 1. This, I'm assuming by now everyone has seen Infinity War.
Yeah.
One of the best scenes in Infinity War takes place between the Mad Titan Thanos and his adoptive daughter Gamora, and it actually tells you a little bit about how he found her. Kidnapped, found. These terms are loose.
Or destroyed her whole planet, just kept her as a slave.
Yeah, made her a trophy. It's very problematic all across the board, but
good as a point of view, Anakin.
Yeah, touche. No, hey. Only the Sith speak in absolutes, which is an absolute statement.
Right.
But this is a take on that. It's not quite the cinematic take, but it's a take on that. So the story...
It's very similar, though.
It is. It's right on that line.
Yeah.
But this is a story about how Gamora came to be in the house of Thanos. Yeah. How he became her ward.
I mean, she called him dad. So she may hate him now, but... She did look at him as a father figure.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's
a
very complicated relationship.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So the story opens up. It is Gamora as we know her from the comics, and she is piloting her ship. and she's making a recording. She's doing one of those things, maybe kind of a last will and testament thing, but just in case anybody finds it, we don't really know who she's talking to at that point. You can make some guesses.
I've got a guess. I've got 2 guesses, but yeah.
But we don't really know for sure who she's talking to. And she's basically giving the story of her origin, how she became the ward of Thanos, and given a little bit of the legend of Thanos too. So if you are going to wait to go see, if you haven't seen Infinity War and you're going to go wait to see Endgame, you want to know who Thanos is, but you're looking at like the Infinity Gauntlet and how huge that is in Infinity War, go pick up number 1. It'll give you a little bit of a taste of who Thanos is. So that's kind of where we are. So we get less Gamora in the story and we get more Thanos. And so what happens in this book is it goes back to the era before Thanos wrecked Gamora's planet. And he's on his ship, which is less of a ship at this point.
It reminded me of the Winchester house, the way it's described.
A little bit, yeah. It's like things just keep getting tacked on. It's kind of this hodgepodge.
Shit's changing in it.
People are building, and you start to see some of the crew, and things are happening on this ship. It's very unsettling. It's very Thanos-y. You open up to not Thanos' generals, people who will become Thanos' generals, but these little bands of war parties and stuff like that, 2 of which are Proxima Midnight, who goes on to marry Corvus Glaive, is one of the deadliest people in the universe, and the other one is the Maw, the black,
Ebony Maw.
Ebony Maw, yeah, Black Maw, Ebony Maw, yeah. Sorry, my brain switches words sometimes. But in this one, Ebony Maw this is a young Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
He is, he's rocking a little 1980s porn star ponytail, not quite the war mage that we know him to be, or that if you've seen him in the cinematic universe, like he's not who we see in the Black Order.
Right.
This is the beginning of that, and he's just kind of a peon. And he's actually new. They call him Greenhorn several times and stuff. So he's just kind of getting into the Thanos family, and they're all sitting around the table playing cards. They're bored. They're bored out of their mind. They don't know. There's nothing going on.
And they just want to kill people.
Right. And so, yeah, they're ready for war. These are what these people do. One dude has to get up and go pee. I guess it was one of those 3-hour games that he just couldn't hold it.
Well, it was poker they'd been playing.
Right.
It seemed like they've been playing all night.
Playing and drinking. And so he gets up to go pee. And, Proxima Midnight's, good luck. And he's like, what? Why? And don't disappear. Well, why would you say that? Why would... I was asking the same question myself. Why would you say that? And it turns out people have been slowly disappearing on the ship.
When you work for the bad Titan, mad shit happens.
It does.
Truth.
And people have been slowly disappearing on the ship. The crew members. And, it's not hard to figure out what's going on, but no, everybody's too scared to say, hey, the dude we're following is picking us up one by one. And every time that happens, then we get marching orders to the next planet. And this is the mechanism to which Tini Howard, who is the scribe of the book, who I enjoy a lot. I should say, by the way, Ariel Olivetti does the art in this book, and Antonio Fabella does the... You tricked
me into reading an Ariel Olivetti book.
Tricked us all. Ariel Olivetti tricked us all.
Clever
this
girl.
This is the mechanism through which Tini Howard starts talking about Thanos' paramour, the thing that he's obsessed with most, Lady Death. And Lady Death is a figure that he's always been able to see. No one else has, unless, you're Wade Wilson. But it's something he's always chasing. He's in love with Mistress Death. She's started to obscure herself from him. And the only way he can get close to him, it's like a drug. He's addicted. It's showing how this is an addictive thing to him, that murder, is his heroin. He has to kill more to be able to see her more. And so that's what he's doing on these ships. Well, no one wants to die, right? So they're all trying to figure out what to do, where to go with it. And if this sounds like it's very weird, cut and dry, and having a hard time switching back and forth, that's because that's kind of the way the book is.
Yeah.
I personally feel like that. So the dude who went up to go pee, of course, he gets Thanos. Next morning they're waking up, they fly down to a planet, they obliterate everybody. You get some really cool action scenes.
Yeah, and they're not even combatants.
No, they're straight up pacifists. These are, it's like, I'm not going to use the analog I was going to because that's horrible. But, it's shooting fish in a barrel, man. They won't let anybody escape. Thanos has got his giant hook and he's cutting folks in half.
And his warriors are not happy about it.
Yeah, it's boring. This is not what they signed.
They don't mind killing innocents, but they want something
they want to
challenge.
Yeah, they want to use their skills. So this doesn't do this does not fulfill Thanos' need for death. He's chasing that dragon, man. And so they go back up to the ship and they're all sitting there waiting, how long? Ebony Maw is starting to put things together and he's like, this makes sense. Proxima Midnight's just like, yeah, well, I don't care. Like, I'll kill him if he comes for me because she's Proxima Midnight and I think she honestly could. And so as they go on, Thanos is thinking, okay, I get what they're complaining about. I understand it. I too want to challenge this. Like, so he goes to his supercomputer and is like, who's the big bad? Who do I need to go after? What death will finally, get me the attention of Lady Death? Cause, Thanos is an incel. It's just, he's constantly trying to like bug this, like hurt other people to attract the person who doesn't want him. It's just what he does. And so the supercomputer is like, well, it's the Magus, from the Church of, what is it? The Church of Truth.
Yes.
These are the glowing gold people. I think from,
if you saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2,
Yeah.
they didn't call them that, but that's what they were. And they were birthing or, had a cocoon or whatever that had Adam Warlock in it.
Yes.
Adam Warlock is Magus.
Uh-huh.
Big, spoiler reveal there. But yeah. So that's the connection.
Uh-huh. It's the Universal Church of Truth.
Yes.
I finally figured
Universal
it out.
Church
Because
of
it makes sense because space and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so, but Thanos is a little bit of a punk bitch at this moment. He's like, I don't want to hear about that. Mainly because he knows he'll lose. And the supercomputer does as well. Like, yeah, if you go up against this dude, here's all the way he's going to kick your ass. And Thanos doesn't want to hear that either. He's like, look, stop. Quit telling me these things. Who should I go after next? And they're like, well, there's this other planet that you've already raised, but you didn't really do a good job. And another generation has
left
passed.
the babies.
Yeah, essentially, it's like you left these little maggot creatures fermenting under the earth, and now they're back and thriving again. So you didn't really do what you want to do, and of course, Thanos tells his computer to fuck off. He don't want to hear that either. He's kind of a punk bitch, man.
A little emo kid in this book.
Basically. But what he figures out, what they need to do, he wants to taunt Magus. Is it Magus or Magus? Which do you say?
I say Magus, but it could be Magus. I don't know.
He won't face him head on, but he wants to taunt him. He wants to get him frustrated. And so what they do is they figure out where he's going next. And it's like, I'm going to kill all the people that they want to convert.
Yeah, because what's happening is the Universal Church of Life they're not good people either.
No.
The Universal Church of Truth. I'm sorry. They're not good people either. And they're going and they're recruiting people and their whole thing is you either join us or we wipe you out.
Right.
Well, the battle is about resources, and he knows that the longer they keep gaining resources, the bigger army they're going to have to fight him.
Exactly.
Because once they do convert, they're zealots. I mean, they will die for him.
It's
it's building an army.
It's kind of like the Necromongers. If you haven't read any of this, but you have seen like the Riddick movies, it's kind of like the Necromongers for the Riddick movies. Pretty much what they are.
Yeah, Riddick 2 or whatever it was.
God, that movie was so good. Why hasn't that been made into a comic?
I think it has.
I want an ongoing Riddick series.
I think there's been some short series of it. Maybe.
Yeah. I need to check that out because that's the dopeness. And it might be better than this. So they do that. They go to this planet that they're going to attack next. Interestingly enough, the aliens look pretty much like the aliens from the planet before. I don't know if the connection was that this was supposed to be that planet that they raised. And I'm saying raised in the sense of like you raise wheat. They burnt everything to the ground. If this was that same planet that we saw earlier in the book with the same people and that they just gestated faster, or if this is another one that they just happen to also be little bald green people.
It wasn't very original.
No. And they do what they do. They confront the Magus, and you get the scene where Thanos is nose to nose with the Magus. And
the difference was these little green people had yellow eyes.
Oh, was that the difference?
I think so.
Yeah, and what you find out is that, like Craig said, this is Gamora. This is where we inject Gamora back into the story. And this was Gamora's home planet. Of course, Mommy and Daddy get blown the fuck up because that's what happens.
Everybody on the planet dead but her.
For those who maybe watched the movies, haven't read anything with Thanos, unlike the movies where he was only killing half a population, comics Thanos kills every fucking buddy.
Right.
If he's destroying it, he's going after anybody.
Wiping out the whole
At
planet.
least at that point of who Thanos was.
But what the ending of this does is answers the question, why would he save a little girl? Because there's little girls on every planet that he kills. What happens is in this, after Gamora, who, the little girl that we see, she sees Mommy and Daddy and potentially a younger brother, nuked from space, because that's the only way to be sure. she sees this cloaked figure in the background, and it's Mistress Death. And Thanos sees her as well, of course. And she's walking away. And of course, baby Gamora is like, hey, no, don't leave me with this crazy motherfucker. I'm going with you. And he's like, you know, Thanos, like, his eyes get really big. He's really like, whoa, you can see her too? And that's pretty much where the story closes.
Right.
So we know that Gamora can see Death. So can Thanos. That's the glue that bonds them together. That's really how you build a family, you know,
Clearly.
through genocide and
Clearly. Yes.
forced adoption and dark cloaked Mistress Dead people.
Yes. Martha.
Martha. That's the story in the nutshell. So I guess to get into as you can tell, I was not impressed by this book. So here's the thing, and this is why I'm going to get back to my balloon analogy. I think Tini Howard is a phenomenal writer. I've read a lot of stuff that she's written. You know, one of my favorite books of last year was the Captain America annual that she did. And you know, she's signed exclusively with Marvel now, and I think that's rad. I think she's a fantastic writer. I like Ariel Olivetti. I know Craig has in the past not cared for him.
Yeah, I was going to say the one thing in this book that I thought the art was really good. I think Olivetti was ahead of his time, and he now the technology has caught up to what his vision was when I first saw Olivetti doing things, and I think he's to that point now where he was a visionary, and the technology's caught up to what he was doing long before anybody else was, which was digital art.
Yeah. So, well, and so I want to back up a little bit before we just dive right into that though. So like I have all of Olivetti's, Brutal Nature books. I think they're fantastic. I make no secret about Namor being one of my top 5 characters. And he wrote the Namor, the New Mutant. I think it was I wish I'm not sure how many of that series, how many books were in that series.
He was on it to begin with because he was the reason I dropped off of that book.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. And see, I love the art in that. And like you said, he is kind of famous for a multimedia approach to art. So he will take this digital rendering of photography of real things, and he'll draw around it. He'll mix and match. He'll do this really cool effect. And I in the past have loved it. I think it's great. He didn't do any of that in this book. This was all just kind of hand drawn, which is not a bad thing, right? Like it's. I'm not saying the art in this
looks hand drawn. I think it's all digital.
Well, it may be. So, but he's not doing that thing where he takes a photograph and he injects it.
But like in fairness, he's also on stuff. I mean, you're in space and in planets that don't exist.
Well,
so he didn't have
true.
But with the people, he could easily have just been I said, copying photos and stuff. But it looked like hand drawn, a little less. You know, the art. I like the art as well in this book. It's like nothing mind blowing. Special shout out though for me at least for the cover artist Jeff DeKell. I love this cover. The cover is amazing.
The cover's gorgeous. But yeah, so it just the lack of the traditional Olivetti style kind of threw me for a loop. And it took a lot because I have maybe it's one of those things like this is my fault. Like maybe I have an expectation of an Ariel Olivetti book, and this just doesn't live up to the expectation. Or maybe
funny how we just see it so much different.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't Olivetti style, I actually liked it.
And since I'm not super familiar, I just thought it was okay art.
Yeah, it's and some of the pages are better than others, obviously, but you get those things like I said in one scene. Little bald green aliens. In the other scene, little bald green aliens with yellow eyes, or yellow circles around their eyes. There's another scene where Proxima Midnight stabs a dude with her trident. The entire other half of the trident is I'm not sure if you understand how tridents work. It's got 3 pointy ends. The entire bulk of the pointy end is not going to go through a person. It's just so literally.
Depends how hard you stab.
He drew a trident, cut it in half, and then put the other end on the back end.
It needed a scene with her going, I killed somebody. And somebody else going, yeah, you stabbed her with a trident.
Well, no, I
you might want to lay low.
You might want to lay low for a bit.
Yeah, that might be illegal.
Oh, y'all just went there.
We
did. Will Ferrell.
We had a nice Anchorman discussion at the con yesterday.
Did you? Nice. Yeah. But it's like when people draw bullets and they don't know how to draw bullets. Little things like that irk me. Ariel Olivetti's better than that.
I will say the thing that bothered me out of the art was you actually flip to the page, but Thanos is using a weapon that looks like a giant sickle.
Yeah.
And is not using it the way a sickle works.
No.
So-
It's supposed to be kind of, so if you've watched, I'm going to throw in a game, since we're referencing things, I'm going to throw in a Game of Thrones reference. The barbarian horde at the beginning, the horsemen, Khal Drogo's people, these are like horseman weapons. They're hooked. It stemmed off of a Hebrew weapon. The Hebrew army would use these things, and I forget what they're called off the top of my head. But it is like a scythe and a sickle.
I had their name, but Khal Drogo's people, it's the weapon you use on Dravis, Dothraki.
Yeah.
It looks like Dravis's. So
Yeah,
what
they're
do you
Kopesh
use?
style. And
Yeah.
they're angled blades so that you can hook people on horses and pull them off.
Right.
It's like a version of a scimitar.
Except, the ones that they use on the horseback are these giant ones that, of course, Thanos being a Titan is using one of the ones that you would use on a horse. But he's slicing people like it's a sword, and that's not quite how that weapon works.
Not a bit.
But,
another thing that really threw me off is, why is Ebony Maw using guns? I realize he's not the Ebony Maw that we know, and I understand that maybe he's still developing his powers. I don't see Ebony Maw. I don't see him ever being the type of dude who grabs a blaster and goes crazy. Like, cause he can use magic. There's a scene in here where he's like got a little Kamehameha Powerball up in his hand. Yeah. Why? I don't understand.
My biggest problem with this whole book is that Gamora's telling it, and she's not even part of the story until the end of it. So how the hell does she know any of it happened? Yes, she could have stories, but there's way too much detail for her to have heard these stories and be able to tell the story.
Yeah, it was a weird opening, right? And especially when you've got Thanos on the cover. Now, hey, we've got a 50-50 rule. I don't want to shit on this book completely. There were some great aspects. There's some really cool conversations that Tini Howard is having in this book. There's some of the parts where Ariel is drawing Thanos. Some of the best Thanos I've ever seen.
The double page spread of him getting up on Magus's face.
Yeah.
That was
gorgeous.
That was a great one. I really like the interaction between the crew as they're trying to figure it out. Or at least it's talking about what's going on with the disappearances. And honestly, my favorite parts were in the ship because it felt like a horror movie.
It did.
Where they're like, hey, you're going away for a second. Deuces, you're dead. And everything from Thanos creepily stalking, wearing his ceremonial kind of, or maybe that's just his civilian attire, but it almost felt like more like he's wearing his pretty whites to sacrifice somebody. You got that was probably the highlights of this book, but overall, like I said, kind of.
And when like I said, when they're on the ship, it's paced. It's got the tone and pacing of the Alien films.
Yeah.
And so I think Tini Howard's an excellent writer. I just think there were some misses. One of my favorite bits of dialogue in this book is when it's Thanos' second victim on the ship, and he's kind of just unloading. Like he's having a little therapy session to the dude about what's up. And cause he knows he's going to kill him. It's not going to leave that room.
Right.
He knows
he can show his weakness.
Yeah. And he opens up a little bit, and you start to see some of that. And it humanizes Thanos to a point.
Again, how would Gamora know that conversation happened? Right. And I agree with you. Tini Howard's a great writer, but when you're going to do a flashback and somebody else telling a story and they aren't in the parts of that story, it gets a little iffy to me.
And honestly, it's a classic narrative trope that almost never works. But people do it a lot for some reason. You're telling stuff there's no way in hell you got all these details.
So we don't even know that conversation ever really happened because who the hell told Gamora it happened? Because the only two people in the room is Thanos, who would never admit to that weakness, and the dude that he killed.
What would have been cool? What would have been cool for me? And again, look, Marvel's not I'm not writing this book, so who am I to talk shit to Tini Howard? Right. And I'm not. Please don't take it that way.
Again, I think she's a great writer
for sure. I think if this book had have been Thanos, maybe talking to maybe one of his other daughters.
If he was telling Nebula the story of how he found Gamora, then it's a different book.
Right. That makes a little bit more, that is more cohesive.
Yes.
To me.
It was just, it's one of those things that's an easy oversight when you're writing a book. You're like, okay, I want to tell this. I'll just have somebody tell the story, because Thanos is currently dead in the comic books. And we were all wondering, well, how are they going to tell the story? Well, Gamora is also on the run from the rest of the universe, which is why this starts with her in the ship by herself, because she killed Thanos and the rest of the universe is now scared that she is Thanos.
Yeah.
So she's on the run from the rest of the universe so that she doesn't get killed by somebody else thinking she now has Thanos's personality inside of her.
So I just kind of had a little bit of a revelation, and I could kick myself for not having it before. Ariel Olivetti is a well-known, trained artist. This doesn't feel like an Ariel Olivetti book.
Right.
Tini Howard is a great writer. We've read her stuff before. This doesn't really feel like a Tini Howard book. I think editorial has their thumbprint all over this book, and I think that's what I don't like about it. I think that they were pushing, like, you need to make these moves, do this, you need to do that, have Gamora
into the movies.
Yeah, have the little pieces of the movie go in there. Have Gamora telling the story. Show Titan in his show the Mad Titan in his Thanos or his Jim Starlin outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Do these things and throw in these tropes in there. I think that that's what happened, and I wish I had thought about that 20 minutes ago, and I could have led with that.
Yeah,
I don't think this is Tini Howard's
but that's
fault.
okay. That's what happens when we have a discussion. Is sometimes things come out as you have thoughts. Overall, I didn't hate the book. I didn't think it's it's. I don't typically read Thanos books, independent Thanos books. I'll read books with Thanos in them,
right?
But I don't typically read because it's like the 4th volume since they announced Infinity Wars,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
or actually since you first started seeing Thanos in the trailer scenes in the movies. They really started kind of pimping him in the comic books a little bit, and you keep getting these little mini series. Some have been hits, some have not been. I just don't typically love a Thanos story that doesn't involve the Avengers or doesn't involve the Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. So I don't typically jump on these books.
Mm-hmm.
I picked it up strictly because we're going to talk about it this week.
Well, I was looking at it. Darren Shan is the editor. Of course, Jordan D. White's going to be the senior editor, and CB is the senior is the EIC. I need to look up Darren Shan. I wonder what else he's editing.
Well, I wonder if he's doing the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff right now.
I don't know.
Because it would make sense with the tie-in with Gamora being on the run, and the opening scene of this is very reminiscent of the scene you've seen in the trailer for Infinity Wars,
right.
for Endgame, where Tony Stark's talking to his helmet. It's very reminiscent to that.
Yeah.
Which I can say that without spoiling any of the movie because it's in the trailer.
It's in a trailer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very reminiscent to that. Like, she's giving her last will and testament to whoever's going to listen to it. And, it's a story we already kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
We already know how he found Gamora, and I guess the only real revelation that came out of it was why he chose to save Gamora.
Yeah.
Because he had almost kind of decided before he realized she saw Mistress Death. Right. Because he made the comment about, I don't typically show mercy, and you're not going to think this is mercy by the time it's done, or something of that nature. And then
in his Thanos way.
And that's when she said, don't leave me with this murderous bastard, pretty much. And that's when he kind of had the revelation. She could also, so in his mind, he had already made up his mind that he was going to find a reason to save her for whatever reason. Yeah. So it really didn't change anything we already knew.
Well, it's texture.
Yeah. I feel like this book probably had just 2 purposes. One of which is, like I think you mentioned earlier, if you've never read anything else with Thanos, it kind of gives you an introduction into him in the comics. Granted, like I said, tie-ins with Gamora's opening narrative because obviously it's tied into what's going on, but at least you kind of get an idea in the comics about Thanos and Gamora's relationship. And 2, and I hate using this word because it keeps getting thrown around more and more for stuff that aren't this case, kind of a cash grab with the movies.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think that
obviously it's time tied in with the movie hype. Marvel, you see Thanos on there, you're going to grab it. And I get that. That's marketing. They're here to make money. I
was going to say Marvel, but Marvel and DC both do the same thing. When a new movie's coming out, if the character isn't in that book, they're going to issue a book that has that. Yeah. Just like when the Nolan trilogy came out for Batman, Bruce Wayne was dead when that was about to hit, and then all of a sudden, guess what? Bruce Wayne, magic bullet, and he's back to life.
I think it's a little bit
time or whatever it was. Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of a cash grab, but I also think they're just trying to ride the wave of public consciousness. I mean, we just had a major Thanos arc by Donny Cates, and of course that's because of the movies. Thanos is kind of on the brains of nerds everywhere. Right. And if
in their business.
And I'm not saying I hate to use that term because a lot of people use it in a negative light, but I mean, it's smart marketing. Yeah. Right now, Thanos is the hype. For the last 2 years now, he's been the hype. So it does, but it feels rushed in that sense. They're like, okay, we got to get something out. Let's retell the Gamora origin that everyone who watched the last movie already knows with a little twist and obviously some current events mixed in. But I mean, like I said, overall, an okay book.
Yeah.
Not bad
So-
by any means, but not great.
The book is called Zero Sanctuary, which is a name that stems from the story. It's part 1 of 6. I don't know if that means that this is a mini series and it's going to end with 6, or if this arc is part 1 of 6 and they will extend afterwards. But if Thanos is your thing,
I think it's a miniseries.
if you like Gamora, if you want to know some more, if you want to see the origins of some of the generals, some of the Black Order, go pick it up. It's a good book. If you want to see a really cool character that should be a Star Wars character, go pick this up, because one of the assassins in this book, one of the members, her name is Ballista Grim, and she is this. Visually, she looks to be somebody. If she were an Earth person, we would say she's of African descent. She's got really cool armor. Kind of looks like the armor from the dude from Firefly, like Black Boba Fett from Firefly.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, but she's got like this weird yellow Twi'lek head thing happening. Yeah. She's cool. I like her. I like her a lot.
I just noticed something, or just thought of something when you said the name of the book is Zero Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually two things. Because the name of their ship
is
Zero Sanctuary, but he also gives Zero Sanctuary.
Yeah, he offers no quarter.
I don't know why that just dawned on me, but yeah, it's a kind of double-edged thing there.
So if that is your bag, go check it out. Don't be dissuaded, because there's a lot of good in this book.
It's not a bad book. Yeah. It's just got a couple of little technical flaws.
When you're riding the wave of the zeitgeist, sometimes you fall into the water a little bit, and that's a goddamn good sentence. And I just thought of it. So. All right, so moving on. That was a fun book. Yeah, I read it twice.
I didn't hate it.
No,
I didn't hate myself for reading it.
Like I said, not mad I read it, but just nothing to keep me interested.
I'm mad Sean read it. I'm not mad we read it. I'm mad Sean did.
Yeah,
understandable.
All right, so we've got listener questions.
We do.
You guys out there in the Twitter sphere, the Facebook verse, or whatever you want to call it, you guys asked us questions, and we did our bestest to come up with answers to these. And I think we did a good job. I hope so. I've got some answers that I'm okay with. But I want to start one.
I'm very okay with my answers.
Are you?
Very okay.
Just, yes.
Yeah. Like okay Chinese buffet. It's not great. It's just okay.
I'm maintaining my C plus B minus grading on myself.
All right. So, but before we get to our listener questions, I want to throw one out for you guys. Because this is our 69th episode.
And we're adults.
And we're 12.
And we're 12.
No, we're adulting adults at adult.
And because Jerry got really excited last episode and demanded that we have a sex theme episode that he was going to skip out on.
Which is why he did it.
For sexual fanatics.
He knew it.
What is your guys' favorite sex scene in a comic? Start with you, Sean.
I'll go first.
Go, buddy.
And I read a lot of mature books, and honestly, I was actually having trouble trying to like pinpoint an actual sex scene in any of the books I actually read.
Dirty boy.
I know. Hey, I ain't gonna lie. A lot of them are very adult. But the one that constantly delivers on these adult themes, and one of my favorite book series so far of all time, is Saga. And we know Saga is great for its openers.
Yeah.
No, if you read Saga, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I narrowed it down to issue number 50. Now, This is after a lot of shit went down between Alana and Marco. They separated for a while. They came back, and all kind of craziness going on. This was probably like the low point of their marriage as far as like them being together. So this is after they got past all that shit. So what we open up with? An amazing scene of Marco going down on Alana, going down, but she's also above him, and for wrestling out there in a powerbomb position. Just going to town and
using her wings for the best possible reason.
Jesus Christ.
In a lake, and just a classy 9-panel page of just moans and body parts, and then finally,
as Saga do,
she's a squirter. And the look of just like shock, like that's the first time it's ever happened. Mm-hmm. And they've had sex before, obviously, but like I don't know why. It was just like 2 pages of passion, then all of a sudden, bam, and she's just like ashamed of herself. And then accusing him of using magic to make that happen. And he goes, I promise I'd never use magic without your consent. And it's just a nice scene, especially like I said, with context of what's gone on before this event. It's a tender moment between a husband and wife.
Right. And
it's just them chilling naked in a lake after making her come harder than she ever has before. So went with that one because, like I said, I remember when I first read it, again, like I said, after they went through some shit in the previous stuff. And if you're not reading Saga, read fucking Saga.
So this episode definitely needs the explicit content.
Oh, it's getting it.
Absolutely. I'm not good at censorship, especially when we talk about the dirty.
All of our episodes get the E tag. Yeah. So, but one thing I like about Saga is the fact that it's that book that goes there. So, it talks about sex, but it talks about it in a healthy way. There's nothing wrong with cunnilingus. It's not at all. It's a fine way to enjoy the pleasures of the flesh, and there's it's nothing to be ashamed of, embarrassed about. Look, carnality is one of my favorite things, and so go for it.
Can I give a quick runner-up?
Yeah, for sure.
Choice too. I was just going through the individual issues, trying to find one of many. Sexy. That one is the one that won. Runner-up is another opener. Where some bounty hunters are looking for this mystical creature that's been real hyped up. They said like it's valuable, it's legendary, it's held with great regard, and they find this big dragon that hides out in a cave. They get into that dragon, and what do they find the dragon doing? Laying on his back, sucking his own dick.
Okay, well, hey.
Saga.
Because Saga. Go read it. But I forgot about that, and I looked at it again, and it made me laugh just as hard as the first time.
Which reminds me, some guy at the con bought one of my blind bags because he wanted comics for his kids. And we're like, you need to open that before. Out of the 4 books in there, one was Walking Dead. So, one was Crossed.
That was a top one.
Oh, no.
And one was Saga.
and the last one was a Spider-Man Hobgoblin issue. It actually was a pretty good find.
Yeah.
Was mixed in there because there's some good stuff like, well, you let them read one of the 4.
Oh, that poor guy.
But the second one had better. The second one had another issue of Saga in it, but it had more that the kids could enjoy. Yeah. That was funny.
You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'll go next.
Because I'm really interested in yours because I think I know what it is. And
Me too.
Okay, we'll see. So one of my favorite, look, I mean, in case you haven't listened to the show before, Out and Proud Gay Man, I enjoy the same-sex sex. It's fun times. I also like representation in comics is a big thing to me. And it's not just representation of just people like holding hands. Oh, they're a couple. Like, you show straight sex in comics. They show straight sex in comics a lot. I like it when they show queer sex in comics. I think it's healthy. I think it's fine. So one of my favorite sex scenes of all time is actually not that old. It's from Midnighter and Apollo #1 out of.
Yep.
Hey, you know me.
I know we know, and everyone loves seeing Batman and Superman screw.
Hey, damn well, and they are Batman and Superman analogs.
Right.
But so here's the thing with this one. We've seen Midnighter and Apollo together before.
Right. You've
seen them borderlining on sex. Everybody always assumes Apollo is maybe the bottom because he's more of a docile creature. And I hate the labels, so you don't have to be one or the other. But he's more calm. He's not nearly as aggressive. People always assume that Lucas is the top because Lucas is hyper violent. He's very aggressive and he's more assertive. But what's cool about this one, and it was written by Steve Orlando and drawn by ACO. It's either ACO or a co. I don't ever know what
I'm not sure how you say it.
It was a gorgeous book. It's a great book. This shows Midnighter bottoming, and that it was a big controversy at the time. People as the internet's always going to do its thing, but it kind of threw people for a loop, and they're like, "Whoa, wait! This isn't the precedent you set." And Steve Orlando was just like, "Well, fuck your precedent," and I tend to agree with him. And it showed it there's not you can be that. You don't have to fit into a label. You don't have to fit into a box. I know people I know men who are very flamboyant. I know men who do drag. I know men who are what you might consider to be effeminate, that are just tops that, they've got the gay lisp, a girl,
Right.
But they're tops. That doesn't insinuate what you enjoy in sex. I know people who are a lot like me. I know people who, big butch buff bears, just whatever. People that you don't assume are gay when you walk down the street. They're power bottoms. They don't give a shit. It's, and it's breaking those identities of what people assume. One of the questions I hate, and I get this a lot of times from people who, and it comes out of ignorance, and I'm getting better at not cussing people out when they ask this, but, well, who's the wife? Well, there's not a wife in mine and Roger's relationship.
Right.
There's, or they ask lesbians, well, who's the man and who's the woman? Well, they're either both women or we're both men. That's the whole. Let me explain gay to you.
Right.
It's out of ignorance.
It's out of ignorance, and it's out of trying to wrap their mind around their own, make your world feel like they're not, just trying to make an analog for what they're used to into what you're doing, instead of expanding on, oh no, it's just completely, it's how it is.
Yeah.
So they're trying to justify it in their mind. And that shit annoys me.
Sure. And it's fitting people. It's trying to fit people into boxes, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's using, I'm going to use one of those big, weird, crazy collegiate words. It's heteronormativity.
That was a lot of syllables.
It was. It is assuming
exactly what it
that
is.
someone
Yeah,
has to
absolutely.
be the receptive partner and somebody has to be the
Why not
active
both?
partner. Hey, I like flip-flops are great for summer and they're also great for bed. I mean, why not both?
Caleb 2019.
Right. And
I
that's,
mean, Deadpool showed him getting pegged. I mean,
yeah.
Right? But as far as like,
pegged.
that's what he called it in the movie.
Yeah,
That's
no,
why.
that's why.
that's what it's called. That's what it's called.
Pegging something a little bit different.
But as far as like you said, people were like kind of like outraged because of mine, and I'm not a part of this community, but you know, it's obviously around communities that I am a part of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shipping, which we've discussed on the show before.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's gotten a lot of people into the habit of looking at and shipping. Like usually in this term is a lot, especially in the anime community, is just picking characters and going by their personality, their outward appearance, and they're like, oh, he's a bottom, he's a top.
Right.
They issue that. So I think, like you said, when someone actually flipped their normal perceived conceptions of it, yeah, that's why they
Yeah,
got
it's
mad.
hard to put those pieces together if you only think a certain kind of way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of straight people who, even though they are supportive of like gay relationships and stuff like that, they still make those labels for themselves because it's fun to ship. You know what I mean? But when you're taking that into like real people, though,
I think it's because they try to, in a hetero relationship, one's doing the fucking and one's getting fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's generally the way 99% of the time in a hetero relationship, that's what's going on. So in their mind, that's the only way sex can be.
until
straight,
the pegging
straight. I
stuff.
was gonna say, look straight, folks. March down to your local corner store and buy yourself a rubber dick. It'll change your world. Heteros, y'all can do it too, guys and girls. Open yourself up. Sex is fun. Sex is healthy. There's nothing wrong with it. But that's mine. Those are two of my, and we're going to get into it here in a minute. Those are two of my better liked characters in DC anyway. You know, I love Warren Ellis is one of my favorite writers, so I loved what he did with those characters. But, you know, just showing those two's relationships and how, you know, even after this Midnight and Apollo actually was in this Midnight and Apollo series, they were broken up. And, you know, Apollo was having another relationship, but there was still the feels
That was
for
such a good
it was
series, though.
everything about this book was good. So go check it out. It's a Midnight and Apollo. I think it was a 6-issue series. Might have been a 10-issue series.
Steve Orlando doesn't always hit for me, but he hit real hard
Those are
on
some
that
characters
book,
that he does well with, and you know, support your local Butch Bottoms.
So mine is from Sex Criminals, and it's either issue number 1 or issue number 2. And it's where Susie meets John and they have sex for the first time and find out that both of them have the same power to freeze time after they orgasm. And since they climax at the same time, they both awaken in this.
Right.
One calls it Cum World, and
Right.
one calls it something else. It's a great book. You really need to be reading it. But the realization that both of them have that all of a sudden, hey, not only am I not alone in the world, but I just met a partner that is the same as me.
Right.
It's kind of that same vibe you're talking about from Midnight and Apollo. It's people being able to connect on a spiritual level
Right.
through their sexuality as well.
Absolutely.
And that it was in a book that's really just a fun book to have kind of that low key underlying meaning to it. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
That was back during, that was in the day where I liked Chip Zdarsky better on the pencils and better writing, which has since changed.
he's gotten much better at writing. He's still a good artist, but
Yeah,
he's
for
gotten
sure.
much better at writing. So
Matt Fraction.
Matt Fraction writes
Yeah.
that, and I guess they're just both so busy with other things that it's kind of on a long hiatus because it's been a minute since it came out.
They are. So recently, the recent previews catalog came out, and Matt Fraction has actually got a book
I saw that
he's going to be writing for DC.
Back
which
with DC now that
now that Brian Bendis brought in Kelly Sue, who is married to Matt Fraction, if you don't know that, and so he's bring Matt back into the fold, which is cool. We'll see what they do.
when it's been for I can't think of a Matt Fraction book that he did at DC. I know he did a lot at Marvel, but I can't think of a DC book off the top of my head.
So Kelly Sue and Matt have their own company, and they are writing for a lot of non-comic
Right.
stuff, like TV, movies, and
Right.
stuff like that. They're making bank.
Oh, for
doing
sure,
that other
but
stuff.
I just couldn't think of a DC book he had been on before.
Oh,
coming back to
not
DC
sure.
now.
All right, we ready?
Yeah.
All right,
Move
so-
on to the
if you can trust Caleb Anderson, who's a faithful listener of the show and our friend, if you can trust him for nothing else, you can trust him to ask for a top 5 list. And so
And I'm okay with that.
I am too.
Keep asking him.
This top 5 list comes, he wants to know what our top 5 DC characters are. Not who we think are the best, quote unquote, just for our personal, so don't
Who do we like
scream
to
at
read
us.
about,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Can I head this one off? Are y'all
Sure.
cool with that?
Go for it.
So I want to start with, I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So number 5 in my list, and this is going to shock some people, is Batman. He's not my number 1, but I think he is, for my taste, he is one of my favorite DC characters, and most of the DC books that I read revolve around the world that he has set up. Some of my favorite Batman stories, Arkham Asylum, and then The Dark Knight Returns, of course. I'm a sucker for Dave Keown's art from Arkham Asylum, and I love Frank. For what he did, for what he is. He's had his ups and downs. He's very stylistic now. People don't necessarily like what he's always done, but I think Dark Knight Returns is seminal. Number 4, Hawkman. You're going to see a theme here. The Hawkman, there's been a lot of Hawkman over he's just a fun character, man. He, like, the Thanagarians are cool. There's a lot going on with that.
They're fixing him right now. So.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. If I were going to tell somebody, like, if somebody were to ask me, well, what Hawkman should I read? Number 1, I would say Hawk World, because that's a fun series. That's where there's an entire alien race of the Hawks. But the current series right now of Hawkman by Venditti and Hitch, it's where you need to go if you want to read some really good stories about Hawkman. And it's taking this weird, like, scattered history of the character, and it's unifying it in a way that needed to happen, and I didn't know that anybody could do. Midnighter and Apollo, of course, created by Warren Ellis from Wildstorm. He's my number 3. He became a DC property when Jim Lee sold the publisher, and so a lot of you are going home going, well, that's a Wildstorm character. No, Jim Lee sold it. So that's why
they're at DC now.
Yeah, that's why they're in DC now. His 2015 solo series, which I just referenced by Steve Orlando and ACO, is the dopeness. At both the Midnighter series and the Midnighter and Apollo miniseries. Hotness all around.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
I really love the one where where Midnighter had to go to hell.
That was the Midnighter and Apollo run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swamp Thing is my number 2, created by Lynn Wein and Bernie Wrightson. My favorite story, though, is the Alan Moore, Steve Buscett run, which is what, nobody's shocked at that. Like, that's when you say Swamp Thing, you think of Alan Moore. And maybe, for better or worse, not those 2 other figures who created him, but Alan Moore just really turned that character up.
Yep.
And my number 1 is Batwoman, Kate Kane. Arguably one of the few titles from the New 52 that I actually liked. There wasn't, so my opinion on the New 52, we've talked about it before, there was maybe a handful of books worth reading that, out of the 5 years of it, out of the entirety of it. Batwoman was one of them. Hayden Blackman and J.H. Williams III. Number 1, if J.H. Williams III is on a book, you should buy it, because it's going to be gorgeous, because that dude can draw like a bastard. But it was just fun. And then, of course, Margaret Bennett had her run on it later on. Arguably the better version of Batman, in my opinion.
She will go places Batman won't go,
Yeah,
which is saying something, because Batman goes pretty dark. So.
Right, and she'll go that step further. She's not as good of a detective, though. So if that's what you judge your Batmans by, she's not as good of a detective. But she's
Batman's
cool.
very good about surrounding himself with people that are not exact duplicates of him.
Right.
In bringing people into the Bat family that can bring other things to the table that he can't.
Yeah.
And that's why every one of the Robins has been a little bit different. So it makes sense that on some levels he's better than her, and on others she's better than him.
No, definitely.
Well, Craig, since you have the floor, why don't you...
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that you're good, man. Always.
Okay, so I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as well. Number 5 for me is Renee Montoya.
Ooh.
And specifically Renee Montoya from the 52 series.
Right.
Where she became the Question.
Yeah.
And she's kind of developed. I don't even think she's still the Question now, is she?
I don't think so. No.
I'm not even sure if the Question's currently in the DC.
So I really liked Renee as the Question from the 52, of course. Number 4, Helena Bertinelli. Mafia child, spy, vigilante, the Huntress.
Oh, I keep forgetting her real name.
Well,
because they're like, who the hell is?
Yeah, so they retconned and they've changed, and at times it's been Helena Bertinelli, Bertinelli, and at other times it's been Helena Wayne, which is an alternate reality Bruce Wayne's daughter.
Right.
I prefer the Helena Bertinelli version. So number 3 is Black Adam. Again, specifically his story from 52.
It was good.
Where his family dies. I mean, he's the opposite of Shazam, right? So he's a god, and he's got this country, and he's married to Osiris. They've got a child, and they get killed.
He's like the best version of Magneto.
Right.
And he's so underutilized, and his family gets killed, and he fucking goes insane. It's wonderful. It's a great story.
52 might be my favorite thing from DC ever.
It was really,
it's
really good because they took a lot of their secondary characters and made them actually enjoyable and readable. Booster Gold's another one that really got a resurgence from that.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2 is Batman.
Okay.
Which, most people would think that's my number 1 for DC. Of course, anything from the early pre-Bat Fitty is up
Tom
there.
King,
yeah. And then Court of Owls, like some of the ones you pointed out. And then number 1 is Hal Jordan.
Okay.
Oh.
And
yeah,
it's weird, but Hal Jordan specifically, but Green Lantern as a whole has always been my favorite superhero as a child.
Right,
when I was a kid, that was the one I always wanted to be Green Lantern when we played Super Friends.
Right.
It's, this buddy would pick this guy, this one, and I'm going to be Hal Jordan. I want my ring, and I want to create shit with it and do fun stuff. And the Jeff Johns run where he brought him back is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
So that's my 5.
What you got, Sean?
All right. First, a question. All right. What we do? I wasn't sure if we were doing imprints or just straight DC.
Well, he did Wildstorm, so I'd say imprints
Wildstorm
are available.
Okay. I want to clarify that before I get onto the list, because one, it was, if not, I had a pick. If not, but so, okay. Anyway, number 5, and this is going to start no surprise to anyone who knows what I like, is Beast Boy of the Teen Titans.
Okay.
I've always really enjoyed him on the team from being obviously the lighthearted Joker most people know him as, but even in the books, he has his serious moments and like some tender moments with the other members. Kind of would argue he's the heart of the Teen Titans, and that's why I really like him. Number 4 is DC Vertigo's Jesse Custer from Preacher.
Okay, I got you now. I follow.
If not, it would have been Starfire, just so y'all know. But if Vertigo wouldn't allow, but Jesse Custer, just a badass country boy from Texas who just wanted to try and live up to his fucked up family's dream of him being a priest, and didn't quite work out. So once he got the spirit of an angel and demon in him, he went to go make God answer for all the fucked up shit in this world. What's not to love?
It's Garth Ennis, man. So it's just the most.
And just because he's a stand-up dude who's willing to tell his friends and loved ones that they're fucking pieces of shit if they start acting like it, and beat their ass until they realize their errors in all the good ways possible.
Right?
Because Cassidy could, there were times where he was being a piece of shit Irish vampire, and Jesse, as a friend, was like tried to knock some sense into him. So that's number 4. Number 3 is Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern.
Okay.
I'm actually not wholly familiar with the Green Lanterns, but Kyle Rayner was one of the early DC books I had read that my buddies got me on to get me to read DC since I was a Marvel kid. And just one of his first adventures, he used the ring to make a giant Gundam around him. And he was like, this is what happens when you mess with a manga freak with a power ring. I'm like, yes.
Is that Ron Mars who wrote most of the Kyle Rayner stuff?
I want to say it's the early Kyle Rayner. And he's an artist, which, of course I love that. And I'm always torn when what superpower do you want to have? And then as far as DC, it's always between Green Lantern ring and Flash speed.
Yeah.
The ring usually wins out. So Kyle Rayner is number 3. Number 2 is Tim Drake Robin.
Okay.
Because I had read some of the 80s, the Perez stuff, Teen Titans back in the day a little bit, but when I really got deep into DC again, it was the Tim Drake led Teen Titans. Everything about him, he's smart. Some people argue smarter than Batman, as he figured out who Batman was. He's a great leader. And and even his style, his way of fighting, his look is even transitioned into the modern Teen Titans cartoon when, the serious version and Teen Titans go with the long pants, the fighting staff. What a lot of people know Robin now is because they actually, even though he is Dick Grayson, it's Tim Drake.
Yeah.
So always enjoyed him as a Robin. And number one, to the surprise of absolutely no one who has heard me talk about comics and even for 5 seconds, Harley Quinn. Especially the older days, like so started with the cartoon, the tragic character who you can't help but feel bad for, but also you can't help but love in her, all her silly insanities and dealing with the Joker. And I've gone on about her, so I'm not going to rave too much, but yeah, Mad Love, if a book you want to read, you need to read that one.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, that's my top 5.
All right. So our next question comes to us from our brother from another mother, who is a pretty goddamn good podcaster in his own right, is Mr. Frankie De Jesus. And he wants to know Batman versus Captain America, who wins? And he puts a caveat. I know it's a silly fanboy question and it's all opinion based, but he wants to know our opinions on it. So Craig, I will let you lead off on this one.
Captain wins today. Cap wins tomorrow. Cap wins 3 months from now if Batman has 3 months to prepare.
Okay.
I'm not even sure Batman could injure Cap. And I'm a Batman fan.
Yeah.
Like, I would prefer to read a Batman book any day of the week, but I don't see any given scenario where Batman can beat Cap.
Okay. Planting your Cap flag.
Hardcore. Well, that's good because I think Batman would take out Captain America in a heartbeat. Okay. Not a heartbeat. It would be a damn hard fight. But I think Batman, obviously Cap has a superhero serum, as well as, of course, decades of fighting. But Batman, while human, well trained, and used to fighting people with superpowers, while still holding his own as a perfectly normal human being. And I think he would employ dirtier tactics to get the advantage on Cap. So what's the tiebreaker?
I'm the tiebreaker.
You're the tiebreaker. How's it going to
go?
So
here's how I break that tie. Whose book is it in?
Right.
So here's the thing, and I don't want to be insulting to Frankie, and that's my boy. Right. He knows I've got nothing but love for him, or to anybody else who likes to ask these questions. I think these questions are juvenile. I think they're ridiculous. I genuinely don't like them because the answer is whose book is it in? It matters who. It doesn't matter. It only matters who's getting the spotlight.
You're absolutely right, but pick one.
No, like that's just my answer is whose book is it in?
So Frankie, the answer is Cap.
No, the answer is Batman, Frank.
It's Cap.
The answer is whoever is on the title.
It's Pepsi.
What if it's Cap and Batman? What if the title of the book is Cap versus Batman?
Is it being published by DC or Marvel?
All right.
What if it's being joint published?
What if it's a Batman Cap America book?
Then honestly, what happens is they have some type of tiebreaker where a bad guy comes in and they actually have to team up against them.
That's actually what
That's
happened.
literally how these things work.
I'm actually like, I honestly, I do agree with you, Caleb, but like you can't escape these kind of questions. And I enjoy at least trying to think about it, but then there is no set answer except for one answer is always Squirrel Girl wins.
It's the kind of stuff that like, and they're fun questions. Like if you're at the comic shop, they can spur on stuff. At the end of the day, like, this is stuff we talked about on the playground. Like, that's just not, that's not my, hey, look, and if that's that's what you like about comics, then much
Frankie,
love.
you keep asking him.
You do it every time, and remember the loser of this fight is Caleb for being no fun.
Well, hey, maybe so. I get
the answer's Cap.
That's not where I look through for my comics. All right, now there is another one that I really like, though. And I really like that one. Again, don't hate me, Frankie. I'll give you a hug next time.
You can beat up Caleb next time you see him.
He probably could.
Yeah.
That dude's fearsome. I love that.
That's
man.
the better question. Who wins between Frankie and
I mean, we all lose.
I almost had a spoiler right there. I almost had a spoiler.
All right. So
I hate that no one's watched this damn movie. Get out there and watch the movie.
He says no one in a room of 3 people, and I'm the only one that hadn't seen it. Sorry, Chris.
I'm talking about the world in general.
I know.
All right. Our next question comes from Miss Lynn Fay. Hey, Miss Lynn. And she wants, she gives us a little note. All right. So this one may be a little offbeat, but given the complex and often vilified position that intelligence and education hold in American culture, and apparently this podcast, I'm just kidding. That was the cheap shot. I would like to hear something like a nomination of the 10 most intelligent and or educated comic book characters of all time, how they are portrayed, and when intelligence is positive and when negative, etc. She also goes on to say if that's too broad, maybe it could be limited to 1 or 2 universes. Evil geniuses don't count unless there's actual evidence of genius in that person's profession. Her and her friend came up with 4, like right off the bat, that were all Marvel folks. And Marvel is pretty well known for having its geniuses. Almost every character, therefore, especially the Stan and Jack characters, or the Stan and Steve characters, were all geniuses.
Yep. Almost every one of the top superheroes in Marvel.
Right.
With DC, it's interesting because it's almost the other way around. A lot of their villains are actually geniuses. A lot of their heroes are just they have really, really high intelligence, but they're not super geniuses. They're not in a lab.
Yeah. Because a lot of early DC started like with the old serial standard of the evil mad scientist
Right.
being the villain. So and DC kind of accepted that and turned it into the superhero level of it.
And before we get in this, we handicapped. I say we used a handicap there for a little bit. When you're looking up these characters, a lot of what these super smart, super geniuses, they're all white men. And I think
Most of the time,
I think that is a product of the time in which they were written, of course, but I also think that that's bullshit. And I encourage comics writers and creators to write more, if you want to write straight white geniuses, write them, because there's always room for them, but you can write people who are geniuses that don't fall into that category. So we put a few who are not, who don't fall into that category in the list because I think they fit there. Number one, it's not just, hey, we're not just sticking someone there to say we have there. I think they fit there, but they may not be the people you come to mind.
Right.
So we're going to start with number 10. Okay. And number 10 is DC's very own Mr. Terrific.
So right off the bat, we went different than what you said. It wasn't Marvel, and it wasn't a white man.
Nope.
Mr. Terrific he's not a character I'm really, really familiar with. I know Jeff Lemire is using him in his Terrifics right now. I know that he stems out of, I want to say, the Legion of Superheroes.
I believe that's correct. He's pretty much a analog for Steve Jobs.
Is he?
Yeah, because he is an absolute tech genius.
Yeah.
He's in the world of DC, 100%.
I know he uses these little, they call them terrific balls or something like that.
I mean, I don't know that he was created as an analog of Steve Jobs so much as that he became an analog of Steve Jobs. Absolutely. Because I'm sure he was probably created before Steve Jobs was
He's a really cool character, and I also this is something I need to go back and figure out. He has a black T tattooed on his face. I want to know what that's about because that's awesome. Like that's an awesome character design.
As we're going to find out with most of these characters, they're also arrogant pricks,
right?
And Mr. Terrific falls into that category.
He does hard.
He's arrogant, believes he's smarter than everybody else, and just tends to be. If you're in a room with him, he's going to let you know he's the smartest person in that room. And that what he's deciding to do is going to trump whatever you think he needs to be working.
Right.
Wow.
Hard to follow a leader like that, which is, part of what happens in a lot of those stories.
Right. Which is what the whole basis of Terrifics was, at least at first, that, other people in the group were like, hey, we need to be doing this. And he's like, no, I'm smarter than you. We need to be doing this.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yeah. I'm not super familiar. I didn't realize he was that big of an asshole.
He can be.
But
he doesn't come across that way all the time, but certainly.
He also has a lot of heart.
Yes, for sure. I mean, he does. But
yeah.
So do some of these other characters, but they're also. The next one is Ozymandias from Watchmen. And he, again, is a super genius that thought he was smarter than the rest of the world and smarter than the rest of the superheroes and brought on the apocalypse to save the world.
Yeah.
And in that calculated way of only like someone who's super smart, to almost to the point where you lose your humanity. Because you can argue his intentions. He had good intention, but also meant the genocide of billions of people.
Yeah. So we just spoke about Thanos, which is I think a good carryover when you talk about Ozymandias.
I said his name wrong.
Everyone does.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Everybody. Yeah, it's not a big deal at all. At least in the case of Ozymandias, he's not wrong. It's this very Machiavellian take on what it is to be a hero. He does save the world.
Yeah.
I mean, so did Thanos.
In the most evil way. Well, so Thanos, I mean, no, because what Thanos, I mean, I almost went to a spoiler.
Right?
I'm out.
Nope, we're not doing it.
One more day, people. Come on.
No,
it is a point of view, Anakin.
Yeah. At least in Ozymandias' case, he is an abhorrent figure. What he does is wrong. It's unethical. It's immoral. But it does save the world, and it's very much a product of that late 80s Cold War mindset,
right.
Where that came from, because there were people who literally thought these things were going to happen, and it plays off of that.
Right.
Alan Moore, like he's the best living comics writer of all time, to a lot of people's opinion. I don't know if I would. I'm ready to make that claim. A lot of people do. I'm kind of on board with that.
He's up there. Yeah, he's definitely
him and Neil Gaiman there for me.
Oh yeah.
Sean, you want to take number 8?
Sure. Is Robot from Invincible, and that's all I know about it.
Yeah, so I think out of the three of us sitting here, I'm the only one that's completely read.
I haven't read.
If Jerry was
here,
he'd be able to really dive into it.
Yeah. So Robot was originally you just saw this robot that was helping out. He was on the teen team, and then he joined the adult team of superheroes. And as it goes on, you find out that it's really, you think it's like an Iron Man type character, but you find out that the person's not really in the robot. He's a disfigured body that's living in a vat of fluid that's keeping him alive, and he's controlling this robot with his mind. And so what he does over time is he sets up this plan to start collecting DNA so he can build himself a better body. And so he starts collecting DNA, but then this crazy thing happens, and one of the members of their team dies, Rexplode, because, you know, Robert Kirkman does these weird things with names. And Rexplode dies, and he comes back as Rexplode. He takes over Rexplode's body, which freaks out the rest of the team because their team member just died. And hey, here's Robot, who's actually now a human living in Rexplode's body and still controlling the robots with his mind. There's a story arc that happens where he goes into this other world and he takes over this world and becomes the dictator of this world. Well, he comes back and he says, well, I can do this to Earth. And so he's so smart that he actually does become a dictator of Earth. And he eliminates all the world's problems. He eliminates hunger and war and all of these things. But you're having to live under a dictatorship to make it happen. So again, good as a point of view. He ends up, the end of this character, he ends up as a brain in a jar.
Oh.
That's
right.
The end of his story arc is that he ends up dead and his brain continues on living in a jar. And that's how they have to...
brains in jars is a very, very Kirkman trope.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a very good story. It's an interesting journey to watch this kind of side character go from being a side member of the team to being one of the arch villains, because it's Darth Vader, it's the Emperor, it's all of these things. So they can rule better than you can. So.
All right, number 7 on our list is going to be Lunella Lafayette, Moon Girl. So if you don't know, Moon Girl is she's about a 9-year-old little African-American girl from the Marvel Universe. She hangs out with a big red dinosaur. And she's arguably the smartest person in the Marvel Universe. She is a super genius, which is actually how she got her name Moon Girl. She got her name Moon Girl because kids at school made fun of her for being so smart, having such a high intellect. But, you know, she goes on her adventures with her dinosaur, and she's a really quirky, really cool character. If you've got kids, let your kids read this book. It's rated teen, but it's absolutely safe for your kids.
And according to the wiki, actually Amadeus Cho named her the smartest person in the Marvel universe. So, like, right now, at least as of when they updated this Wikipedia article, she's the top IQ.
Nice.
So she's a little badass.
She's generally been for the past 5 years or so considered.
And to my knowledge, has not yet let that genius turn her evil yet.
No, dude, she's a really quirky, really cool, fun character.
It is a great book.
I like it a lot. I read it from here and there. It's not on my pull list. It probably should be. But I've read the first 2 trades that they've come out with. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's a big adventure book.
My wife's been talking about getting the trades now because she was on it, and I was reading the individuals when she was on it, but we've fallen off. So we're probably gonna get those trades. I'll be reading it again.
Do it to it, man.
Yeah, the next one here that we came up with is Grant McKay from Black Science.
Okay.
Now, do you read Black Science?
Nope, I don't read Black Science.
Not a clue.
So, Black Science, Grant McKay develops a machine that can travel through the multiverse. Something goes crazy. You kind of find out later it was sabotaged by his coworker. And they call it the onion, that the multiverse is an onion with layers, and you can go to different layers and so forth. But he's just another one of those mad scientists.
It's not a parfait.
He's just another one of those guys that's so smart that he comes up with this technology and never thinks about whether he should use it. Just let's use it.
Yeah.
At the cost of his family, at the cost of his friends, at the cost of the multiverse and the story of Black Science. I mean, they've completely unraveled the entire multiverse at this point in this book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've got the first trade sitting at home on my stack. So I'll be digging into that soon.
They go to these different, because they're all different versions of the same, of Earth, basically. And they're going to these different versions, and they're bringing their diseases and stuff with them and wiping out entire species. And it's just insane, because he never stopped to think about if it was stuff he should do or not.
Up next, we have Dr. Starr from Black Hammer. And that's all I know about it.
Well, so Craig led off with a good way to put this. It's that just because you have the ability to do something doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
And that's a good lesson from Dr. Starr. So this is a little bit of a Starman analog that Jeff Lemire has done with his Black Hammer universe. His story is that he's obsessed with his job. He's obsessed with his work, and it takes him out into space. And of course, space and time don't work. They work differently the farther you get away from Earth, as most physicists at least assume, to what we know. And, he comes back and everything has changed, and it's not the way it was. It's not the way it should be. And he's not adored by his family anymore. And he's become a little bit of a pariah and a letdown, and he's wasted his life. And he comes to that's the big lesson of here is, don't waste.
Well,
don't miss out on everything.
He went and saved another culture at the expense of his own family.
Right.
Which makes him a hero. Yeah. But it also made him an outcast.
It's the villain in somebody else's story.
That's right. Which is the theme of a lot of these geniuses is either you die or you become the villain that you're supposed to be fighting.
Right.
Yep. It's unfortunate the way that works sometimes. Our next one, this is a character that I like a lot. So it's Barbara Gordon from the DC universe. Yeah. And I threw this one in there specifically during her Oracle days. A lot of people think of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, especially sometimes some of the way she's written. She's really young, fun, and just kind of an ass kicker. When her character was treated very much, her Oracle character, she was very mature, very much an adult. She was paralyzed from what happened with the Joker, and she became a computer hacking phenomenon.
Absolutely.
She was the Watcher.
Yeah, which I'm very glad you put her on this list because I think a lot of people have forgotten how smart she actually is, and it is sadly not really portrayed much anymore. At least from the last time I was reading any.
She hasn't been written that way since New 52, and they brought her back without the got rid of Oracle and brought her back as Batgirl.
I would love to see somebody write her juxtaposed with Tim Drake and just have her teach Tim Drake a thing or two. Because Tim Drake has this idea.
And I think they've had that kind of interaction before, pre-52. But so, absolutely.
I mean, she tends to be the voice of reason in the Bat family most of the time. When everybody else is going, no, we should be, and she's like, no, wait, guys, we need to think this through.
Absolutely.
All right, Sean, I'm going to jump back to you on this one real quick. Why don't you go ahead and drop out number 3 on us?
Number 3 is Senku Ishigami. If you listen to I think an episode or 2 ago, we had a manga ramen where we discussed Dr. Stone. And the cool thing about Senku is he is a science genius, but on that level of like realism. In the book, it's never treated like a superpower other than just he loves science. He thinks science betters everything. So in the world where they get petrified, he manages to be one of the few to break out of that first and just use the science to bring back humanity. And he wants to bring it back in the positive way, just because he wants to teach the people that are living in this planet, being primitive people, using their strength and basic knowledge, would just sit with, like, from what I've understood of the book, like, it's legit science every single time they've ever done anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that goes into it.
Absolutely. So, like, and he makes slowly making modern technology come into a world to make it better.
Cool.
So, I mean, it's super smart, super fun, and it's just a great book.
Nice. Craig, take the next one.
I think you should take.
I should take this one.
We should break this.
I mean, I'm not going to take the next one.
All right. So the number 2 on this list, I might have used some executive privilege on this. It's Robert Bruce Banner.
It's a legit reason to be on the list.
Look. So here's why. A lot of people, especially in the Marvel universe, they think about Tony Stark or they think about Peter Parker, and rightfully so. There's nothing wrong with thinking about those characters. Bruce Banner is not only a physics genius, but he's also a technological wizard. The problem is he's always running. He's always being chased by the U.S. government or by bad guys, or he's always running from himself because he's afraid of what the Hulk will do. He's very rarely got the chance to utilize his skills and his tools to sit in one space. Now, there is one arc where he does that, and it was written by Mark Waid. It's the
Green.
The Invincible Hulk, where he was Doc Green. And so essentially what Banner does is he makes a deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. He's like, look, I'm tired of seeing all of these, in his opinion, hacks, I'm using air quotes, get the credit for all of these technological advances and all of these scientific finds, medicinal things that they come up with. When if y'all would just leave me the fuck alone and let me do my job, let me be a scientist, I could blow these dudes out of the water. I could solve all of these different problems that we have here on the planet. And so he makes a deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. And essentially what he says is, hey, look, You give me a lab, you stop chasing me, and you give me some lab techs, and I'll give you the Hulk. Like, if you want to, like, you want to send the Hulk places, you want to turn him into a weapon, you do that.
And then to allow me to live with it.
Yeah. And I'll come back and he does. And the dude is just making, and he's like, I mean, he there's another arc there where he's the lab techs, like, he chose them for a reason, but it's a great story. It's Mark Waid. So it's one of his better. And
then in the background of that, the whole time he's developing a way to de-gamma everybody else.
Yes.
That has gamma powers.
But that, to me, that just shows the innovative mindset of Bruce Banner. And I think that is personally what puts him on the list, is because he is that big brain. He just never has the chance to really, really hit it out of the park.
So the number one person on this list is the person that should be the number one person on any list when you're talking about geniuses and in their way they're portrayed. And that's Reed Richards. Yeah. He is the first genius in the Marvel universe and is the one that generally fucks up things because of his genius more often than he fixes it.
Yep.
He is so smart he no longer realizes how to interact with people, including his wife. He has a hard time interacting with Sue or the children most of the time, because the children a little bit more because they tend to be a little bit more on his intellectual level. So he can interact with them a little bit more. And, he does things like start the Illuminati.
Right.
Where he, hey, we're smarter than the rest of the world. This group of 6 superheroes that are the smartest on the planet. We can control things like who gets to control the Infinity Stones and things like that.
Well, some of the most amazing stories, some of the most amazing Fantastic Four stories are centered around Sue, Ben, and Johnny doing these adventures specifically to remind Ben, or to remind Reed, Slim, to remind him, hey, like, we're about family. Yeah. Like, you've checked out a little bit too much. And when you want to talk about books like Dr. Starr or Mr. Manhattan, even, who
Mr. Manhattan is an analog of Reed Richards.
Yeah, and Mr. Manhattan's not on this list because while I think he was a higher level, he didn't become a genius until he basically became omnipotent. Yeah. And like, to me, that's not a genius. That's just your god.
That's a superpower.
And also, it's Dr. Manhattan. He didn't go to 4 years of Manhattan school to be called Mr. Had to do it.
The great thing about Reed is right now the best version of Reed is the one called The Maker, which is from the Ultimate Universe, where it actually experiments with what happens if Reed goes unchecked and he becomes a super genius evil villain. He's
been a big part of Venom here lately, and it's been.
Well, I'm going to say
really
he's ambivalent because he doesn't. Yeah. He's not necessarily good or bad. He's just going to do what he wants to do, and if it benefits people, fine. If not, he'll do better next time. I
keep throwing this term around, but he is a very Machiavellian figure.
Absolutely,
he does his end game is not quote unquote like he doesn't see things in right and wrong. He doesn't see things as good or bad. He's going to do what it's going to take to prevail, no matter what, despite he doesn't have that check. And maybe that's the statement with a lot of these stories about genius and intellect and intelligence. And maybe that's a lot of the reasons like characters in DC are more portrayed to be bad. And, Marvel has their own take on them, is that these higher level intellects, to use a Professor X-ism, you fear what you don't know.
Yeah.
Or you fear what you don't understand. And to go back to what Lynn said, in our country right now, there is a big anti-intellectual movement. It's what got us current president, in my opinion. Sorry if you're that person. This is just my personal political views bleeding in a little bit. But there is a fear of what we don't know. And it's led to that. And you can see in a lot of these stories how it does separate these characters from the greater world, which is interesting. It's an interesting take on it.
Well, and then the thing that Marvel does really well is this is what happens when you have family or you have a ground rod to pull you back to keep you from going that extra mile.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what happens when you don't have that grounding rod to bring you back. You end up going down paths that you can't return from.
Yep. It's some great stories in there.
Absolutely.
All right, we got 2 more to power through. So Elite Gusty, who's sending questions before, I like them. He said, I can't remember if you guys did this one or not, but if Southern Fried Geekery were to create a comic book, who would fill each role as writer, artist, editor, and colorist? Also, what would each of you like it to be about? So I think that the easy, in my opinion, I would write it.
Yep.
Sean would probably draw it.
Yep.
Jerry would color it.
Yep.
And you would be the grand overlord to let us know if it's good, bad, or we need to go in a different direction.
I think we chose the same. What about you, Sean?
Almost. Caleb Wrighton. Craig editing. I'm drawing and coloring. Jerry gets the coffee. I trust Jerry. I'm joking. That was a joke because he was supposed to be here.
Right.
But no, yeah, absolutely. I think we all agreed on that. I'm curious to see what everyone wants to make, what kind of book you want to make, though.
I mean, it's me. It's alien invasion or demonic invasion or parallel universe invasion or something of that nature.
For me, if I was writing it, it would probably be a true to life type of slice of life type of story with a sci-fi slant.
Oh, see, nice. And I went right in the middle of that because I thought about Caleb being the writer. Mm-hmm. I want an 80s style horror book, kind of like Monster Squad.
Okay.
But with like the Stranger Things kids kind of situation. I think you could write the shit out of that. I would love to draw it.
Okay.
You know who would win? What the book would end up being about?
I mean, I'm writing it, so me.
It'd be about invasions because I'm the editor.
Monsters invading this neighborhood of kids. And a lot of coffee will be passed around by Jerry.
Oh, Jerry. All right, so we got one more from Mr. Frankie De Jesus again, wrote in saying, hey, question for the group. We all, or at least most of us, have seen The Umbrella Academy on Netflix. Yes, we have. I enjoyed it quite much. I like it a lot.
Craig has not seen it.
Because I'm a bad nerd.
Well, we're going to spoil something for you real quick, Craig.
Yeah.
We've all seen, well, not you, but most of us have seen the now famous dance scene in the first episode. His question to us is, if you are number 8, who is kind of the focal point of the show, and Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now comes on, which of the other 7 best describes the dance that you're doing? Sean?
Oh, me with my lack of rhythm and no skill whatsoever would definitely be Luther, number 1, as he just very basic hip movements and throwing his arms up and down. He gets awkward the whole time.
I would totally be Klaus. Yeah. And he's just weird.
I don't understand the question, but my only dance move is the Carlton.
The Carlton? Well, you can throw a sprinkler in there every once in a while.
Yeah, maybe.
So I had 2 just in case because I forgot you hadn't seen it. And I thought you would, honestly, I think you would also say Luther. The same one. It was just kind of, real basic kind of stuff. That's why my second pick was 7, Vanya, just because she got like a little bit of foot movement in there and she was really feeling it. And with the right song, I can get a little bit of my Latin rhythm out, but not much. But yes.
Just a smidgen, huh?
And, again, I'm forgetting character names too, but, the Spanish guy, that would totally be Jerry.
Diego?
Yeah, Diego, cause he was popping and locking and doing the Running Man.
Yes, that would absolutely.
Be Jerry.
I would agree. Would agree with that wholeheartedly. So that's all
words,
of.
None of them sound good.
You should like this. You'd enjoy it.
If you ever,
I'm so far behind on watching TV. It has nothing to do with. I've been joking about watching Dark Shadows, but the reality is I just haven't even watched TV in like 2 months.
We all know if Roger wasn't watching The Umbrella Academy, I wouldn't have seen it. So. That's all of our listener questions this time. We have one more in the bank, but it's another list, and I'll leave it to you to figure out who sent us that list. That we'll answer next month. It's a good one. It'll be fun. Actually, it'll really blow open some doors. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. But if you're listening to the show and you want to come to our Facebook group, starting this next week, I'm going to throw up an announcement post.
You're gonna throw up?
Well, I mean, probably, depending on how much I drink and how bad the pollen is.
It's true.
I'm going to throw up an announcement post that you can actually go and you can put your questions on the Facebook page. And we encourage you to do that because, hey, you can ask us anything. Like a lot of these centered around superhero comics, but it doesn't have to be. No. We've had questions about wrestling. We've had questions about religion. Yeah. We've had questions about LGBTQ things. We've had questions about, anything and everything. Yep. Books, Star Wars, Star Trek. Red Dwarf, if you want to get really
deep pull. I like that.
I love that show.
That was a great show.
But yeah, go in there and drop your questions on there. I think that's about all that we have for this one. All right, so we ready to do this? Right. So we're going to end our show, and as we always do, we are going to end our show with letting you know some of our fresh picks from next week. We're going to get ahead of ourselves a little bit and tell you guys what we think that you should pull off the shelf for New Comic Book Day on Wednesday. That's when the new books drop. Head out to your local comic shop, or if you order your books online, however you do it, as long as you're paying for it. Illegally downloading things is stealing things. Don't do that because we hate you if you do. Yep. Flat out. Just don't do it. It's not cool. No, not cool, bro. Go buy your books. And so, Craig, why don't you lead us off and tell them what they need to be grabbing this Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm going to pick a Aftershock Comics book.
What?
Yeah, Descendant #1 comes out by Stephanie Phillips. Avinji Bjornikov and Wando. A child of a senator goes missing and the conspiracy theories start.
Ooh, very cool.
In the way the preview is written up about it, it's like contact the creators of this comic book to give them information if you have any known whereabouts of this child that's missing and stuff. So it was kind of interesting the way they wrote up the solicit for it.
Right.
I have to check that one out. I didn't even hear about that one. I didn't pull it. So
I get all the new Aftershock books.
Sad day for Caleb. But not completely sad day, because there is a book coming out that I think you'd do well to grab. And if you haven't grabbed the first 2 issues, go grab those as well. It's Black Hammer 45 number 3 comes out. Man, this Black Hammer verse is killing it. It really is. I'm loving everything that Jeff Lemire is doing with it. It's bouncing all over the history and the genres of comics. Just fun stuff. And this one I love especially because it's drawn by Matt Kent. I think Matt Kent's style is amazing. What that man does is incredible. And this one's a little bit more of it's a mixture. It's a little bit of a Golden Age homage, a little bit of a sci-fantasy homage. There's some cool stuff in there. If you've read any of the DC Blackhawk stuff, it's kind of playing off that a little bit. And I likes it. I likes it a lot. That man, he's going places, that Jeff Lemire.
Yeah, he may end up being a pretty solid comic.
He might. Writer. He's got a bright future, I think.
he may figure this out one day.
A good up-and-comer, huh?
Yeah.
All right. And my pick for next week is Batman number 70. For those who have been reading, we know we've been going through a lot of like single issue nightmares. It's done. This is what it's all been culminating to since the wedding. So we're going to see. I'm excited for it because I want to see where the hell this has been going this entire time. But some people have fallen off, or at least not really been caring as much. So I think this is going to be hopefully the big turnaround.
I'm trusting that Tom King can figure this out.
I think so too. And like,
that he's got a plan.
Quick synopsis is that, and this starts The Fall and the Fallen, where Batman escapes from his nightmares and wakes up in Arkham Asylum with all of the enemies around him, which, as we know, after the end of the wedding issue, that's where Bane and all of these villains were.
Right.
So I'm thinking we're finally going to get the upturn to this whole story. So.
About damn time. I'm looking forward to it. And, we stay tuned to the Facebook page or the Instagram page to find out what Jerry's pick for the next week is. We're going to hit him up on the social medias, and he will let us know. But each week for New Comic Book Day on Wednesday, I post I don't know what you would call it, a picture. I make a graphic for our
4-panel graphic.
5-panel if you want to count the little diamond in the middle.
Right.
I get fancy with it. And I post the covers to our books, and just because I like doing it, because the covers are cool. And so go check that out. Guys,
honorable mention of Savage Avengers comes out next week.
Yeah, it does. Maybe that'll be Jerry's, and he just doesn't know it. Maybe I just want to ask him.
Fair enough.
Sorry, dude.
You should just go ahead and do it and see if he notices that you didn't ask.
I always wonder if he'll listen to this. I don't think he will. I don't know.
He listens to a lot of podcasts. I don't know
does.
if ours is one of them.
I pick on it. Well, he's usually here, so I don't know.
Again, I don't listen to it because I'm here recording it. I don't have to.
We should talk a lot of shit real quick.
You mean like right now?
Yeah. Just
go get us fucking coffee, Jerry.
All right. Well, are we ready to bring this thing home?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Well, we really hope you've enjoyed the last little bit with us, because we have enjoyed talking about it. Thank you dearly, dear listeners, you sweethearts, you beautiful, beautiful motherfuckers. Thank you for those questions. We really like them. We love talking about comics, but we also love hearing what you like to talk about and really digging into the minutia of what it is to be part of the geek culture. So this was fun, even if I don't like the who would beat who questions. Just good times all around. But if you want to come hang out with us, you should want to. You should come to our Facebook page, which I've mentioned a few times. You know where to find it. It's the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. We're on the Twitters and the Instagrams as well, and you can hit us up there. If you have something you want to know, maybe you don't want to post it on the thread for the questions, or maybe you have some advice, or maybe you need to know something, anything, you can shoot us an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com, because we'll be there. We check it every day. Every day. You should also go listen to Craig's Star Wars podcast, because it is brand new, it's shiny, and it's just for you. And it's good. I listened to it the other day. It's fun. Nick's voice is deep.
Yeah, he's much louder than I am. He's a much more... I'm a soft-spoken guy.
You do have a little bit of smoke in your voice.
A little bit.
Smoky.
Yeah. Nick got that deep. He could put some bass in it.
Yeah.
If I can do a little self promotion too.
Do it too.
I do have a YouTube channel called 5 Minutes or Less Reviews. If you want to see a quick review, 5 minutes or less, come check out that YouTube channel.
All right.
For sure.
Well, if nothing else, guys, go forth and love some comics.
Woo! We both did it.
Has to happen.
Is noon too early to start drinking?
Never.
Even if I have to work?
Especially if you have to work. It's not.
Oh, shit. We're still recording.
I mean...